Yeah, so I'd like to bring the October 2nd meeting of the Hinesburg Development Review Board to order. I guess the first thing to talk about was if there's any agenda changes.
Well, actually, if we can we possibly do one? An extension request for the Haystack Crossing Black Rock application. They have been, well, actually, Ben, do you want to speak?
Sure. Ben Avery with Black Rock Construction, South Burlington, the Haystack Crossing project. Thank you for considering our extension again tonight. We are, I promise, right there. We actually have worked with staff to create what I think is a pretty good mutually agreeable phase one plan. We have had the second last night of what we anticipate to be probably 3 meetings at the select board for allocation for a large portion of that, and then the plan is to drill the well later this month. So really all of that is coming together to mean a preliminary plat application sometime hopefully in the next 45 to 60 days. We've also completed a traffic study. RSG completed the study. We met with VTrans this morning. We're really working very hard to get a lot of the ducks in a row so that when we get to this board later in the fourth quarter that we've hopefully answered as many questions as we possibly can to make the process a little easier.
So are you asking for 6 months?
I think that's been the standard, so
That's the
that would be
maximum.
great.
Yeah.
And their application, their sketch plan approval, which the court provided for them, will expire later this month. That's why Ben showed up tonight to make the request.
Well, I think we all appreciate you've been working profitably with the town, and I am fully in support of a motion to extend.
Okay, any discussion?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For the record, I'm recused.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soonish.
Soon. All right, so that's the only,
Would you like to put the minutes to the end of the meeting?
I think the minutes are fine, so I don't.
I think we can get through them pretty quick.
All right, go ahead.
So-
I had to put that in there.
Let's see.
I had no changes.
Okay, yeah, so we're talking about minutes.
I move to
No,
approve. I don't think
Okay.
anything I didn't like.
I didn't see anything either.
Second. Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
abstaining, I wasn't here.
Okay.
I was only partially here, so I don't know what kind of vote I can get.
Partial's good.
I approve my portion.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I don't know if that's an abstain officially or
No,
not.
you can approve. You can approve
I can
minutes even if
approve
you weren't
minutes
here.
that I were, yeah.
If you'd like.
I did not watch the video on the other parts though, unfortunately.
Okay, so the first application on our agenda is Jesse Paul and Sophia Morton, sketch plan review for a 2-lot subdivision. If you would like to walk us through what you're proposing?
Which one would you like to have up?
Oh, and your name?
I'll get a picture.
Okay.
You can bring the plan.
And what would you like me to put up here?
The sketch plan,
That's this one? No.
SK1, 3 from the top.
Oh.
This is
Hey,
terrible.
Jason.
Absolutely.
Let's bring you in a little bit more.
Yeah, can we, is the focus a little better on the projector?
There you go.
Is it, what is it? Is it this one?
It's
No,
large.
It's the other one.
Which is where? All right.
Yep. I think we need to be in the market for a new projector. We had the same problem.
The
with select
resolution
board
is good
meetings.
if you zoom in, I think, on these things.
Yeah, the letters aren't getting any better.
I can sort of point out and get
Can you zoom in?
the board
Or
oriented.
no, it loses a lot.
Right, I
It's on.
think if you zoom in, I think the resolution
There,
is
that's
better.
Is that better?
But you're not showing it all right now.
So you're not, I'll give you the overall if you can.
Yeah, I'll bring it back out and then we'll zoom in.
Okay, so,
Like I said, Pez dispenser, here's the handle, here's the head.
good analogy.
Yeah.
Certainly got a chuckle out of us when we were reviewing the staff report. The overall parcel owned by Jesse Paul and Sophia Morton is you can see it's bound by the river to the north, and then Partridge Hill road runs through here. Red Pine, is it Red Pine?
Yep, Red Pine Road.
Lane, Red Pine Road. Sort of cuts through and bisects. There's a Y where those join. The whole parcel is outlined with a thicker line to really demarcate where that property is. It's 11 acres in size. Currently contains an existing 2-bedroom, single-family home served by a drilled well, on-site wastewater system. The proposal is, by Jesse and Sophia, is to subdivide the existing parcel, taking into account the roadways. I know there was a fair amount of planning that went in the past couple of years and zoning regulation revisions to get to this point. They really would like to, or envision this, having a second parcel, the long access of the parcel being here. That you can see it runs along Red Pine Lane, and constructing another single-family home on that parcel after the subdivision is approved. So there would be 4.3 acres with the river, a small triangular piece between Red Pine Road and Partridge Hill, and then there would be the other long parcel would be the remaining property for lot number 2. There was some questions in the staff report with regards to road width, and I think Jesse can sort of speak better to that than I. We've been up there a few times. We haven't surveyed anything out yet. The proposed parcel would be developed with a single-family home that would be served by an existing or a proposed wastewater system and drilled well. Yeah, that works better. There you go. And lot number 2 would be 6.7 acres in size.
So is this not in the town sewer district, or would it
It's
just
not.
be? It's not.
It's not. There's not,
So the Fox's home is not on
No.
town water or sewer? Really?
no. No, I think it ends right at Richmond Road. The main runs up Richmond Road, and that's still quite a ways. We do have soils. We've been out with the state. We've done the testing. We do have an area that meets all the current regulations for wastewater disposal with a mound system. The proposal would be to drill a well. There's already an existing well for the current residents, and we've reviewed, we've designated a replacement area as well for the current residents. So in terms of the state wastewater, we've got that end covered and looking to keep things. The upper parcel, or lot number 1, would be 4.3 acres in size, so it would meet that 3-acre minimum zoning requirement. And obviously,
What about the contiguous property on either side of a road?
We'll change the rules.
Okay,
That's
so
why,
it's
that's
gone,
why
okay.
they
To do it,
withdrew their
okay.
last application, they got the regulation changed, and now they're back.
What's the purpose of keeping the triangle with the existing house?
Because it has to be 3 acres, right?
Oh, it wouldn't be 3 acres if you didn't?
No.
doesn't look like it based on the orthos, but these are scaled off with the orthos. We have had some discussion with that. We really think it makes more sense to use the road as the dividing line in this case in terms of Red Pine Lane. It just makes more sense. It does add a little bit of protection up here to this upper lot. And it's gonna be divided by a road somewhere.
Right.
Where would power go to the proposed new lot? How long would the underground have to be there?
Power runs all the way up Red Pine.
Red Pine,
So you just be taking off a pole there?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there must be 3, 4,
There's
5, there's,
probably 6 or 7 poles up Red Pine, at least.
yeah.
And what's the condition of the road width? Well, first of all, how far away is it from the paved road to get up here that it eventually gets to? And how many people are on these roads and what's the condition of them, I guess is what I'm looking
So the
for.
town road runs, so the beginning of Partridge Hill is town road, and that runs,
That's not paved.
that's not paved, so right after Mechanicsville yields on you take your first right, that's Partridge Hill.
Okay.
Right there.
And it's gravel all the way up to about maybe, the town road stops maybe 400 feet before the Fox's driveway.
Right there.
You can sort of see it
So yeah,
on
see
the
the
map.
see the driveway
Yep.
that goes north. So that is where the town stops plowing
Okay.
and turns around.
The town doesn't own the road that far up. You can see on the map a rectangle around the road right
Right
away.
here.
But the town plows well beyond the end of our town road just because we need to get to a driveway to turn
Turn
around
around,
in.
Yeah.
There's a bridge there, as I recall, right? So the town doesn't own that bridge.
Sure.
Bridge
Yeah.
in front,
Yeah. The bridge is maybe 150 feet past that driveway.
Yeah.
All right, is that where it is?
Until it falls through it.
No, it doesn't use it. So what's the condition of the road, right, up that way, and how many houses does it serve?
So there's what on like past where the culvert is, or
Just talk about Red Pine Road for now.
Red Pine Road. There's
Three.
3 houses
Three?
currently on Red
Three.
Pine.
1, 2, 3.
Okay,
So there must be an apartment, because there's 2 red dots there.
Yeah, there's an
An
apartment.
accessory dwelling
Yeah.
there.
yeah, okay.
What's the topography like of Red Pine? Is it good? Can you see sight
Yeah.
lines? It's pretty flat.
It
Can you
is.
Get up there so you can see if people are coming at you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very straight road. It's
Mhm.
flat. The really the only grade of the road is kind of
First.
the first, like coming from Partridge Hill, maybe the first 200 feet.
Yeah, so coming
And
up
it's a
that
pretty
slope
great.
there, and then
Even
This-
that is pretty straight, as you can see.
It's, yeah, that's sort of where, then it
then it gets
traverses
level.
contour across.
It's
there.
flat and straight from basically that first property where it stops turning. all
So
the
I
way to
guess,
the
you
end.
know, a concern that I would have is definitely the coming around onto Red Pine. We don't know exactly the width of those roads of Partridge and Red Pine in that area, as long as there's sufficient width of shoulder to pass 2 cars and around that intersection. So that would be a concern that would be.
That intersection is very large.
Yeah, the
Okay.
intersection is very large.
And
and
then
there's
on
also-
Red Pine,
Following up that blue line, going up Partridge Hill, where the blue line is, there's, it's kind of like an association designated pull-off zone that may be 75 feet long, and it widens that road by another 12, 15 feet.
so would something like that be appropriate somewhere on Red Pine, kind of coming up here? Is it just a little pull-off to make sure that there's
So there's
You're not gonna
already,
get stuck.
there's already, not to interrupt, but there's already a barn on the property that Jesse constructed last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that on the other plan, but that has a driveway access to it?
yeah,
That has
and
a-
a pretty kind of like wide
Apron.
turning zone that has,
Has a
so.
wide apron that you can.
Just stay right here, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But Jesse, you know the width, or did you, Jason said you might know the width of Red Pine?
Yeah, so I went up there tonight, I read some of the comments in the review and went up and did some measuring. It's one of those situations where,
Tonight?
yeah, in the pouring rain. So I changed and I'm trying, you can see my boots are still wet. But, so I measured basically from the Fox's driveway all the way up around the corner onto Red Pine to where this potential driveway would go in. And, you know, as the road travels, when you're looking at it, you know, majority of it's between 10 and 12 feet wide, where it's like clean gravel where the cars drive. There's grass, a little bit of grass growing on the edges through gravel, so the actual road is much wider than what it looks like. I had Russell come over and help me out. We brush hogged the sides to widen it. There's been a little bit of overgrowth over the past handful of years, and I'm going to continue to work on, you know, cutting some shrubbery down just to kind of push it back from what it's grown into over the past few years. But you know, the reason that it doesn't look clean gravel is because no one drives on it. There's never 2 people passing each other. Like I said, there's three houses that are up there.
So probably shoulder width to shoulder width is at least 14 feet, maybe
At
more.
least, yeah.
what you're saying.
The most narrow spot, shoulder to shoulder, that I saw was 14 feet, and it's because there's, you know, 100-plus-year-old tree there.
It narrows down.
It kind of narrows down there, but, you know, with a little bit of, you know, brush hogging and snipping, the overgrowth would, taken back, would look a lot wider than what it currently does. So in terms of passing a vehicle, it's possible as is right now.
And it does keep the speeds manageable, obviously, when it's not super wide.
So it sounds like your road base is currently close to 14 feet?
At least, yeah.
Okay.
Who plows it, and is there a association or how?
Yeah, so TRX 14 is the association that was founded, I believe, in the 70s when this subdivision first happened. And there's 8 total members in that. It's both Red Pine and Partridge Hill, and we split all of the plowing duties, we split all of the road maintenance. Russell and I mainly do a lot of it with our tractors because we have them, and I'm blanking on the name of the guy that plows our road. What?
Ross Orvis.
Ross, yes. So Ross does all the, the heavy grading, and if we need culverts replaced, Ross does that. He does all the plowing. And then all the individual driveways are privately paid to Ross if you want him to do it or not. And he also, including in that, he keeps the, that kind of, the area, like I was saying, where Red Pine and Partridge Hill meet, he keeps that parking area plowed on the side all winter long as well.
So is there a formal road association? Does TRX 14 actually have?
Yeah. Yep. And Steve Leary is the president of that.
Okay. And I think you're proposing a 20 by 40 pull-off somewhere, is that what I recall from, or was suggested? Is this the one, or is there?
That might be the next one.
Oh, that's the next one? Oh, sorry.
Spoilers.
I know they were
What they
starting
could
to.
possibly do, I mean, they could actually, if you think that the road width is fine, or, condition, well, that would end up being for final. But you could also have it where their driveway could be set up, you've done this before, to be sort of a pull-off.
Yeah.
So they're kind of building something, it just will be a wider of an entrance that will widen it up in that particular area.
Yeah.
And that area could be maintained as a pull-off, which in this situation might be a good, it's around that kind of curve that's there, so it might be a good spot, sight distance-wise.
Where are you planning to take the
You
driveway
mean
up?
the current driveway that we have
The
already?
proposed driveway.
The new one.
Proposed, if you go back to this sketch plan, we can kind of, and that's still, I mean, keep in mind, this is an ortho-based sketch, so it's not,
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got it right over here.
But I think what you'd said is that the existing driveway to the barn might be an
That may be an
easier
easier-
place to create that sort of
well,
wide
there
spot.
already kind of is already.
Yeah, it's already a wide, you can turn easily both directions, north or south out of the
Driveway.
Well,
driveway.
where is the barn driveway, Jason?
The
Can you
barn
point
is
to
here,
it?
these orthos may be older. It's not that far up from the road, is it?
Here, I can,
Yeah, actually,
It doesn't do much good there.
Yeah, if it's really close to the intersection, it's pointless, because you have the intersection.
No,
No, it's not.
it's not.
is the
It's-
red button the pointer?
Yep.
Yeah,
Where are we here?
you're gonna have to go.
You can see there's a little
It
clearing,
is,
kind of just to the right there.
yeah, so the driveway is, well, the driveway is like right here. So it's like right, there's not much more elevation after our driveway. Our driveway's kind of at the peak of the elevation.
It's halfway up the hill.
Yeah.
A little more than halfway up the hill.
So right from like here to here, there's maybe 5 feet of elevation change. And then that's where the road flattens out.
And is that can anybody tell how far that is from the intersection?
I believe we cut the driveway in at 275 feet from the intersection.
I think that's, I would strongly support some widening, at least on that curve, just because it's horizontal and vertical. You're gonna have somebody passing, that would be a great spot to have at least some flexibility to have that widened
On
area.
This corner?
So-
What are you talking about?
No, right where you have that barn driveway, probably.
Just-
Or at your driveway,
Just
either
widen the
way.
driveway entrances a little
Yeah,
bit wider.
I think that seems like a really pragmatic
Yeah.
solution.
That seems very reasonable.
Well, and I think typically the fire chief is looking for 40 feet long by X wide to pass a emergency vehicle.
At what length of a road do you need to have that? I guess, well.
Well, it'd
this
be
is-
like 40 feet, that's like 18 feet wide total width of the road.
Yeah,
So
18
go-
foot in width total by
Right,
the
so to go,
40 foot
so you're
long.
adding like 4 feet to a 14 foot or 6 feet to a 12 foot. And that'll be 40 feet long, and then you kind of have like a little area on the edge that just beyond that.
Not
It just
small.
tapers into it.
Well, if that happened at their new driveway, that would probably be easier to create.
To do, yeah, in here.
And that's kind of a nice spot as well, but, yeah.
It just has to be just wider than normal.
So is that just something that the road foreman, Mike, can?
He won't be involved in this, these
That's-
are private roads.
This would be something you'd want to get Al Barber involved with, the fire chief.
But I think you'd wanna write it into your sketch plan approval, and then the applicant can work with
But
their
we can-
engineer
we can-
to figure out the best
Yeah.
location for it and how they wanna propose doing it at final.
And it's hard because we haven't visited the site, but I would suggest to Mitch and for us to consider that it appears the topography and the horizontal curve, it'd be wise that this is the time to get that widening done.
Right where the driveway is.
Yeah, add a driveway for emergency and passing purposes.
It seems to me staff and the applicant can work out suitable language.
There's also, not to continue this, but there's also, if you scroll down towards the southern part of the property a little bit, one more driveway. So directly across from this driveway, right where the hand is right now, someone created, I don't know how long ago, but it's existing. There's about maybe 30 by 20 pull off right there as well. So that's currently existing as well. And it's directly across from their driveway entrance.
Do they use it for like parking for visitors, or it's?
It doesn't have,
Okay.
there's no one ever parked there. There's plenty of parking in that house up top. I've never seen a vehicle parking there.
And then, can I ask about, this is not on the driveway, but about the tree clearing? Why that, I know Mitch put in the staff report there'd be minimal need. It's very forested.
Well, that's one of the things that we wanted to touch on tonight.
Oh, okay.
As well. And basically, when we come forward with the next, assuming we get sketch approval here tonight or soon, we'd like to sort of maybe bump the building envelope out a little bit just for the purpose of a garage. Right now, it's at a half an acre. Jesse would like to have some lawn, so be able to clear beyond that, the building envelope for a decent sized lawn. And I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep buffers in between the property zones, so I wouldn't be cutting anything on red pine. I want to keep that as a boundary. I just basically would like a little bit of southern exposure for the house.
So you just want to bring this, you
Yeah,
want to
so-
just bring this southern line down a bit.
Down
Yeah, and maybe-
the east line actually will probably go to the zoning setback with that.
But Sarah, your question wasn't so much about building envelope as it was about what could be cleared outside of the building envelope, is that right?
Well, I think, someone said, it's written, proposed subdivision has been designed so there'll be minimal impact to existing natural features such as trees, hedgerows, steep slopes, and it says minimal tree clearing will be required for construction.
Yeah,
And I was
I mean, it's all forested, so it's.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
looking to clear cut the whole property. I just want to have, enough open space to
I just-
enjoy the-
Oftentimes what we do is we look at that building envelope and we say that generally you're just going to clear either in the building envelope
That's
or
fine,
for
I
the
just didn't know
utilities.
how it was situated, that it was minimal, that it had minimized it, because I was like, oh, it looks kind of like there's no way to
Oh,
minimize
yeah,
it, that
well,
you.
it's not so much that, it's just that that's actually, for what we were expecting, a relatively small building envelope, so.
No, it's fine, I thought I was missing a clearing that was not featured.
And
on
it's
there.
pretty far away from public roads.
When this subdivision first happened back in the late 60s or early 70s, this was all field. And it's just kind of, no one maintained it and it grew up and now it's forest. But this was all working farm. All the properties in our association was a working farm. and most of them had lake views, and now they don't.
So the staff report also talked about building envelope, I think you're either proposing one to cover the house and the barn, or a second one for the barn, just to make sure that all the structures are in a building envelope.
However, if you want to do two, or,
That is kind of out of my comfort zone to answer, but the barn is currently constructed through a permit I got last year. So I don't know.
So maybe probably best, if this is where you want to put the house over here, my recommendation would be to put a second building
Okay.
envelope.
that's, yeah.
Right, because
based
I
on-
mean, if you gave it one big building envelope, then you could basically say you could build anywhere in that stretch. And if you want to limit it to the barn area and the house area, then that would imply two.
Well, what's the barn used for now?
It's just storage. So it's just a,
So
like I
it's not an
said,
agricultural structure?
it is not an agricultural structure, but it is permitted as a barn for storage use.
One of the housekeeping changes to the zoning regs that happened this year was to give more specificity on the setting of building envelopes and to specifically enable you to establish multiple building envelopes. In the past, we've had some reluctance to establish, more than one building envelope, but the regs give you that power clearly now. And this might be a good example of where you establish a reasonable one in two locations.
Well, why don't we just invite the applicant to, in final, make a sensible proposal?
Yep.
Okay, and there was also a question about a building envelope on the original, around the original house, lot 1, I guess it is. And I understand that there's some boundary line variances that have been in whatever.
They were granted in the past,
Granted.
yes.
There's- yeah.
This is an awkwardly located
I mean,
house.
It is.
to me, because of that, it seems like having a building envelope there would also be prudent.
So I did talk about this with Mitch a little bit, and there are a number of natural features that have to be set back. Slopes with the small stream that runs here, the wastewater system that's to the south or to the west of the house.
Yeah, I mean, forgive the color, so many colors on the map, but basically what you have, these greens over here are, those are stream buffers. You have here some moderate and steep slopes, and yes, you have some agricultural land, but you do have an area in here that could actually be a building envelope.
We'd put a building envelope on lot 1, which basically goes to the edge of those setbacks.
Okay.
You can't go
And-
beyond that anyways, so it's,
So the variance is to the easterly property
is.
line?
Yeah.
yeah.
And I thought I read at one point it was 11 feet, and another point, I think in the staff report, it said 9 feet.
I was looking at two ways. It was 11-foot reduction, which means it's a 9-foot setback.
Okay. So then I'm assuming the
I
building
read that
envelope
right.
would be 9 feet from the boundary, the property line, to kind of solidify that variance. Okay.
And I think that would make it easier for our zoning administrator to handle building applications on that properly in the
agree.
future.
And then that way there'd be some, monuments or something that, actually marks it. And,
Or the opportunity for, sure.
yeah.
Or markings, you can certainly pull a tape off 9 feet.
Something, yeah. Something you can actually measure to, as opposed to just
Give it a.
Yes.
eyeball.
And with Jason doing
We're sure.
a newer survey, that will be much more clearly defined of where the property line actually is.
Exactly.
Okay. So does the board have any other questions?
Just one thing I just want to bring up is that you just have to, in the decision, because this does come to these little corners here, you're allowed to deem that it makes sense, but it just requires you, the regulations, to deem that it makes
So it
makes
was
sense.
my understanding, the main purpose of that is not to have a dumbbell-shaped property with a little
Right.
100-foot connecting. That's not the case here.
Yeah.
You could argue whether or not you can actually use that point for anything useful, but it's not connecting two pieces of property together with a skinny little piece, so in my mind, it's fine.
It's a regular shape at the top.
And we looked at one our last meeting that was very triangular that.
I agree,
couldn't
and there's no
possibly-
building potential in that sliver anyway.
Just, you need to say that at the meeting, so we can go to final and make that a non-issue.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll open it to the public if there's any public that would like to comment on this application.
Or not.
Or not. It appears there's no public comment.
I'm fully supportive of it.
State your name.
I move to close the public hearing and direct staff to draft conditions of approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah, you do, Justin.
Let me do a little housekeeping here. Come on, where's our agenda? All right, so our next application is Samantha Lednicky and Curtis Martin, application for development on a private right-of-way. 25-acre property located on south end of Fern Road.
I will. Sure. Apologize for this is
So,
weird.
if we can have the applicant give us a rundown of what the
Give me one moment, I have
what the
to-
project's all about.
Sure, and I just asked Mitch to bring up, in your packet, you received what's labeled as a site map, Curtis Martin right-of-way for access. And in the upper right-hand corner of that, it's sort of just a good overview, a bird's eye view of our property, the adjacent property that will be gaining a right of access through, as well as what Fern Road looks like. So you can see that right up there. At the very topmost corner, that's where Piet Road, which is a town road, connects, and where Fern Road starts. Oh, thank you.
So Sam, can you tell me when this 25-acre lot was created? Because we didn't do it.
It was created back, and I think I was just hearing the previous property that we were just talking about was also a Tucker property back in the day. The Tucker family owned, I believe, where the arrow is, our property, the one below it, or the one across from it, and some
the arrow
down
is
closer to. Anyway, the Tuckers owned a ton of property.
CVU. Yeah, the hill.
Yeah, and so when the family members started passing away, they passed down their property to the brothers. So we purchased our property from George Tucker and his brother.
But a lot was created without access? Or
So
was...
what there is there's a deeded
'Cause it-
access through what we refer to as the Gallagher property, which is just south on this map. That goes down to Levine Hill. So that's where the deeded
Was there ever
right
a
of-
subdivision, or was this like a free lot thing?
I don't know the
back
answer to
when?
that question. I'm going to defer to these two.
Mitch,
for a lot of-
you know
researched
that-
it, right? There's no.
Our board
proper-
never dealt with this.
I mean, I didn't do a title search on it, but basically, from what we can see zoning-wise, there isn't any listing of anything
So
on
it
it.
predates zoning, I believe.
It
That's
does.
why-
I think it does predate.
That was my conclusion when I looked at
The
it.
Tucker family reserved it as a sugar bush. And that's how they gained access was.
But there was a recorded lot long time before the zoning? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
Huh.
yeah, I believe it.
Essentially, the family
Get
just
your
took,
names.
took a large piece and cut it into
Rocky
chunks.
Martin.
Okay.
So officially, the deeded right of access is through the southern property, the Gallagher property, through Levine Hill Road, and as you can see, that's going to be a much more extensive.
So where actually?
Sure. So the arrow says subject property. That's our. I'm referring it to more of a square. It is a rectangle.
One down from the top.
And then just south of that, our property, that's what's referred to as the Gallagher property. It's a very long rectangle, and where Curtis has the pointer right now, that's Levine Hill.
Oh, okay.
And
So
only
that all
that-
connects to the
Our
Buck
right of
Hill
way comes up
properties.
like
That's
this.
Levine Hill, north of Buck Hill?
Yes.
But I think
Yep.
it's also important to add that there's some incredibly steep slopes in that area.
It's
That would
it's
make it-
incredibly steep. Our property, when you look at it, it's lots of valleys and
It's a long way too.
and it would be a very long way, yes. And then all the way through that property. So if you see, our property is about 24 acres, so the next property is about 50 acres. So we're going to be, we'd have to go down an extremely long way, cutting, a lot of trees and be disruptive, I think. So what we're proposing today is to get approval for a right-of-way through Rocky Martin and Cheryl Eishen's property, which is just to the north. Currently on their property, there is a family dwelling as well as an accessory apartment, which was built last year. So there are two dwelling units on that property. And then if you go back to the other map that I was referencing, you can kind of see the blown up picture now that you have some reference for exactly what we're proposing. So the Fern Road is existing, and then the driveway out to what you can see here on the westernmost side, that dwelling, so that all exists. What we're proposing to build is the part of the driveway that shoots south.
And that's Rocky and Cheryl's.
This is
That's the
their
main
house.
That you'd be going through.
and then the accessory
Property.
apartment
Their
is
accessory
right there.
apartment's right there, yeah.
And that circle that you can see in the corner, that's actually just marking the existing
mound
sewer,
system,
the
yeah.
mound
Okay.
system.
Just one little clarification, you would be actually getting a 50-foot wide easement entirely through
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Rocky Martin's property. Okay.
Yep, and just before you go away from here, there's actually power, and our utilities would come from right there. And we'd pull them right up through there as well.
And is that what that line's indicating, the power line?
No, it's
No,
sewer.
okay, never mind, that's sewer.
So currently, Fern Road there's 4 houses plus the accessory apartment. We would be the 5th house.
So there's 3 prior to that chunk that you saw, yeah.
And I can zoom in on this one here so you can see that a little better.
So there's a house right here,
One, two,
a house right there, and right there.
So there's those 3 houses, and then Rocky and Cheryl's property, and then ours. So there would be 5, we're proposing to have
You'd be the
five,
same.
5 dwelling units. We'd be the 6th if you include the accessory apartment. So 6 dwelling units, 5 houses, or however you want to parse that out. So we would be the 6th. And, you know, essentially, who lives on Rocky and Cheryl's property right now is Rocky and Cheryl, which is Curtis's parents, and then Curtis's brother, sister-in-law, and 2 children. So we're constantly using this road already, accessing it for family gatherings and to be out there with them. So, you know, we really, it's our opinion that we're not really going to be increasing too much traffic on the road because we are out there a lot of the time, at least once or twice a week. The road, we went out and measured it. I guess you want to talk about
Sure.
the road
So
itself, if you guys have any specific
the
questions.
road itself,
I didn't have a chance. I was out of town this weekend, so I did not have a chance for
Yeah,
a site
did anyone get
visit.
to go visit?
Is there anything you can share with us?
I've been out there once. I drove the last.
Maybe
Wasn't
for the accessory?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I think our last.
The last application was in 2016, but I didn't go out there then either.
Oh, okay. So tell us about Fern Road.
So Fern Road, you know, I measured shoulder to shoulder, and it's about 14 feet. I guess growing up there, our family's been there for 30 years, so you kind of know where you can get off on the sides of the road, and it's all gravel, but kind of like Jesse was saying, a road of 30 years, it's kind of been growing back, so, you know, we have gone since and brush hogged and, you know, scraped it down, and we're gonna add in gravel to the spots that are under sort of that 12-foot minimum. We do have a pull-off that is about halfway down that long straightaway. Our proposal is that we will.
Is that shown in this picture?
Yes.
Yes, that is. That's the pull out. You can see it off to the left is
And
the
it's
pull
about
out.
right over here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yep.
It's about halfway down that long straightaway, and as you can see, that long straightaway is very straight. It's in my mind very flat. You can pretty much see a car at one end or the other. When you come around the bend, now that my parents have just built their accessory apartment at the sort of the where the road
End of the street.
curves, you pretty much
Right
can
there, yeah.
see straight through to their house.
And then what he's actually done at that place where the hand is currently is basically created a pull off for people for big trucks to turn around from there.
Yep. So again, we kind of through this whole construction process, you know, one of the reasons why I feel the road is sufficient. We've had concrete trucks. We've had a 40-foot tractor trailer to deliver trusses come down the driveway. We've never had any issues. I can't remember ever having a time where 2 cars couldn't get by on the road itself. And part of this is because there are 3 driveways. The first 3 houses are clustered probably in roughly the first 800, 900 feet of the driveway. So really there's only 3 houses past that. And so
So is there a formal road association in place?
There is through the deeds of all the properties. It's not like
It's not a formal association.
association,
Just a
but there
deed
is a
agreement.
Well, it's
agreement.
formal through
Yeah.
deeds. It's
Yes.
not, it's not imposed by the town, but,
No. Yeah. So.
and it's been working out as best you understand.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Rocky, you've been a town buildings supervisor for many years. Are there issues that you see with any of this?
No, not at all.
It's worked
No
out.
conflict of interest there.
And then also.
Take it for what it's worth.
I don't know, it's worth pointing out, I think around the first bend, or right where the second house's driveway is, there's this big grassy area that actually was created as a cul-de-sac, specifically
a
for
full cul-de-sac.
turnarounds. So that little point out there, right off the second, before the second, or right after the second driveway, it's this large area where cars, it was designed there for cars to turn around. Now it's grass, but it's mowed, whenever that person mows their lawn or whoever mows out there does that. So that's another area where cars are able to turn around.
So there's a decent gravel base there.
Yes, it is
So it's
gravel
all
based,
gravel.
there's just, some
Okay.
grass
Yep.
over it.
So I am concerned that if we received some hesitation from our emergency and safety professionals, that is something that deserves some consideration. And then more maybe toward the staff is, when is a road a driveway and when is a driveway a road? And in this case,
Feels like a driveway after that last.
it feels like a driveway at a certain point, but at some point, maybe, right now my thinking is to the accessory dwelling, that's almost constitutes sufficient of a road, and then you would need to provide sufficient public and emergency support access. So I'm wavering. I don't really know. I don't want to impose an undue burden for a relatively, for one single family residence, but it's becoming that aggregated effect that we're starting to add more and more uses. And if it's going to be a road that serves a certain number of houses, I'm looking for that 14-foot, which has been our precedent.
Well, to address the first concern about Al Barber, I think you'll see some email chain in there. He actually came out to the property, I believe, once. He had a phone call with Rocky. Rocky can share his conversation with Al as well. But what we understood from Al's email is, 14 feet is kind of like this ideal magic number, but he said he would feel comfortable having emergency vehicles out there with only it being 12 feet wide if we were to widen that pullout that's depicted on the picture that you have in here. And so our proposal for you all today is to lengthen the pullout. It's
Yep.
already 40 feet wide.
Nope.
So okay, he knows the numbers. It's 18 feet wide.
It's
We're
roughly
gonna
18
widen
to
it,
20 feet wide.
Lengthen it to 40
and
feet.
it needs to be lengthened because there isn't sufficient entry and exit,
Yeah.
really, is the issue with that.
But just clarification, what you were saying before was that the road itself is really 14 feet, but just it's kind of, due to maintenance and such, it's kind of pulled in.
Again, I measured in 3 spots, and I've got photos on my phone. I found that. It is a long road. I think there probably are. I think you found some that are shorter, especially as you get towards that accessory apartment. And that is where we would improve that to be that 12-foot minimum. But again, there are definitely many spots on that long straightaway that are 14, I believe.
So
It's like if you were to average, I guess.
my take is that 12 foot is a driveway width, and we, 18 used to be the number, now it's 14. To go down to 12 is like for multiple lots and potentially, I mean, it's all happy family now, but, things get sold, and life goes on down the road, so to speak. And I think 14 feet is really our minimum serving this. You said, Fern Road serves 6. The last part of it's going to be serving 3. It seems like 14 feet is.
3 meaning the accessory apartment.
Yeah, 14 feet is pretty minimal at this point to have it go all the way through.
At least have 14 to the apartment before it splits off in that way.
Yeah, 14 to the apartment, right.
But you're already saying that it is 14 feet, it just needs maintenance.
Yeah, if you include the shoulders, I do believe it is 14.
Well, it has to be traveled portion,
Yeah.
and I think that's what our requirement will say. It was up to the zoning administrator to come measure and agree that you've made the travel portion 14 feet wide.
Do you mind if I ask what is the travel portion?
Yeah, I mean, I think the distinction is that there
Before it
aren't
starts
that
ta-
many
Before it
cars
starts
using it.
tapering down.
Okay, so where, where your
Right.
shoulders are, so if it grows in with grass,
Yep.
it's fine. But it should have a solid base that if you drove on it, it wouldn't collapse and dump you in the ditch.
And that's what we believe. We believe that there is a solid base. It's just
Right.
there is some grass over it. There are 2 ditches on either side, so if you were to measure from where it starts dropping off on one side to the other, it's our belief when we went out and measured that it's at least 14 feet.
Okay.
There,
You'll have to
is
convince the
that-
zoning, whoever enforces our condition. That's not,
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Well,
in the
I know
past,
there's
we've
many
had,
ways to measure a road.
Well, you're right.
So we're just
The
trying
top of the
to
crown-
clarify that there is gravel and.
top of the grant, yeah.
The top of the edge is where you would get that
Right.
definition of the
Right.
road base, and that's what would be a 14-foot minimum, I think is what we'd be looking for.
Yeah.
obviously, if everybody's driving down the middle, they're not going to keep the grass and stuff off
Right.
the edges. So I think what we've done in the past is we've asked like to have a contractor or somebody drill, like a core or something, just to verify the depth of the gravel and things like that, and to verify the shoulder. So, something like that might be in the approval, just to verify that there is the 14 feet.
I'm not sure we've done that.
No.
We haven't?
I don't think so.
I thought sure we've asked them
That was
to, when there was an existing road.
Sure, we have one existing road, sure.
Yeah.
We did it on Low Meadow Road
Yep.
when the Gallica Janda subdivision happened, and the developer said, I'm sure Low Meadow has 12 inches of gravel base, and the board wanted that demonstrated, and that's what that
I
applicant.
think there have been a lot of times where we haven't done that.
And I'll just tell you that they dug a test pit, they asked me to go out there, and I verified it for them, so.
But no one's
Okay,
saying that they have to
so-
verify
so-
depth of.
So we'll
we're
make a
just saying-
condition, and it'll have to be demonstrated.
Well, but to Sarah's point, I think the discussion tonight has been about the road width.
I know,
Right.
Not
now
about
you're
the
adding
gravel
depth.
depth. So if you want to talk about the gravel depth and harken back to that 12-inch base, which has been a standard in some projects, but not all, it might be good to talk about that briefly and get the applicant's perspective on whether Fern Road, can meet that, or whether they're going to have to haul in
I guess my assumption is
6
that it
inches of
doesn't count
gravel.
as a shoulder if it's just mud.
if it's just mud, right?
Right.
So, it's not gonna support traffic, so,
Plenty of gravel. There's plenty of gravel.
Okay.
That's what the photo looks like, there's plenty of gravel, but if we want to condition it,
yeah, would probably need to be verified, I think is all. And then if it's the zoning administrator that goes out with a little shovel and then digs at the shoulder, then so be it.
Oftentimes you ask for a contractor to certify it, you get a professional contractor, we've done in the
Yeah.
past.
Okay.
I mean, there's different ways, and that could be done prior to a certificate of occupancy for a building permit or before a building permit. You can go either which way on that.
Okay.
Probably do it before CO. Just out of verification that the road is as per what the board decides.
So we can have a few more minutes talking about Hannaford's. I would propose we close the public hearing and direct staff to draft conditions of approval. I don't think there's any-
No other,
there's
no other
audience.
public to
There's no
respond?
other audience to talk.
Okay, so then we'll close the public
Well,
hearing.
unless you have more questions.
Is there already is the building area been already cleared for that?
We've cleared an area that we actually just got married on.
Yeah.
If we are gonna build there, I don't know, we haven't had engineers out yet to kind of give us their best take
Oh, the new lot, you mean?
of the new lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of old logging roads throughout there, that there's a lot of options.
So I think, it's an existing lot, and as long as their house meets the setbacks for the property, it doesn't come back here. So it's not a subdivision. If it were subdivision, then we'd be asking about building envelopes and all that kind of stuff. But I think because it's an existing lot, as long as they get the driveway onto their property,
Yep.
and they meet all the other regulations for lots in that zone, then it's just between them and the zoning administrator, and DRB doesn't get involved beyond that.
You subdivided and changed.
It's kind of unusual
Yeah,
dealing with
it is.
lots that
That are already
we never
exist.
approved.
Right. Yep.
There are
Okay,
lots
so we
of
had
these
a,
lots.
That's my motion.
Lots
A
of
motion to
I second Ted's motion.
Yeah, whatever his motion is.
Can I just ask clarifying,
sure.
sort of what the timeline is for the approval or the return us to more comments?
Basically, from what they've talked about,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something together for the next DRB meeting. And, actually, we've got a bit going on.
But by statute, we have 45
They
days.
have 40, there's 45 days the
But
DRB
usually we
has.
do it sooner.
Oftentimes it's the next meeting, although I have to say,
Faster.
in this particular case, it might get bumped to the meeting after that, unfortunately, because just a few things that we're still working on.
And then there's a 30-day appeal period.
But for right now, you're not, when are you looking to come in for a building permit?
Tomorrow, no.
No,
I have no idea.
we don't know yet. The earliest would be the spring, probably.
Yeah,
so-
get your dynamite if you want to blast through frozen ground.
All right, so we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good to see you, Rocky.
All right, so I think, we have something else on the agenda?
Oh,
Another
yes,
extension?
one more extension. One more extension request from Andrea Hollenbeek. She started work, I think it became a little bit more at first than what she thought, and she just needs a 6 month. This would be a first-time extension.
Was that the house by the sand pit?
It's on
Must be on Baldwin Road.
Baldwin
If it's
Road.
Holland
Yes.
Beeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for the sketch, it's for final?
They had a sketch plan approval.
Right.
So I would move to grant a 6-month extension to that sketch plan.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I just wanted to mention on the tablets, you might have found that 2016 disappeared. I can tell you a whole bunch of things with
Okay,
links
we
and
don't need to know.
coverage,
We don't need
just
to know.
letting you know on that. If you want it back, we could possibly do it after Hannaford, but
It's all in my filing cabinet, I don't need it.
good.
Aha.
And I think
So
that's,
news, announcements, correspondence?
no, I think that's it on that.
Okay, so on that note, I would make a motion to move, to go back into deliberative session to discuss, further discuss Hannaford's.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.